Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I wanted to speak quickly on balancing because I don't believe balancing should equal nerfs. I genuinely think that there's a different approach to balancing, weapons or whatever in the game, and taking that into consideration, you have to balance a whole lot of other things. And so this brings me to reference my other video that I did on the P416 rant, because there were rumors that the P416 was going to be nerfed, but the developer said there was not going to be a nerf in Title Update 5, and the community and one of the developers, the weapons guy Frederick Thailander, had some conversations about it. And I made that video talking about why this approach, which they're not nerfing anything, but we see the approach. It's the underlying approach for them to make a balance is to target one item that's maybe causing some problems in the whole meta, and then nuking that item and making it pretty much irrelevant is what it is, because everybody gravitates towards the best items. And so why we see people gravitating towards one best item is because I feel like there are not a lot of other viable options. And so if you look closely in their assault rifle family, there's in my opinion, a very close, I would say, competition between the P416 and your black market AKM if you're able to get yourself a sturdy 7.62 magazine for it. I have that sturdy. I think I have that sturdy mag on my other character or something like that. But if you look at the way these are actually, these two weapons stack against one another, they provide multiple options. One for fast firing if you want to put out a lot of DPS. One slow firing can get you a lot more base damage, and going like that. All I think the developers need to do is to add another weapon to this category that will be in the middle. And I think that the candidate for that is actually the MK16, because these are the three most used assault rifles according to my knowledge. When I match up in groups and I go inspect and snoop on people's builds, I usually see the P4, if they're using assault rifles, I usually see the AK, the P416, or the tactical MK16 or the MK16, whichever it is. And these are the three weapons that a lot of people usually use. A lot of people have said that the police M4 is going to be their go-to weapon if the P416 ever gets nerfed. And these are other weapons that are also there. I think these other weapons with a high rate of fire, it's actually really tricky. But then you have this weapon with the low rate of fire, about 625 or 650 RPM. And this is one weapon that they can take a really, really good look at. It's a very, very critical weapon to look at, because anything done to it in a sense of buffing it in terms of numbers can skew the entire meta to making everybody go to this tactical MK16 or MK16 route. So what they can do is actually do some things regarding accuracy and stability, and also maybe touching things like its reload time. These numbers are really negligible in terms of when you do your DPS calculations, but in all reality, they will bring this weapon, if you tweak these numbers, they'll bring them up to par with the P416, and if nothing, even make the P416 irrelevant. And so this, in my opinion, is one way to go about it. Another way I think to go about it is to take absolutely useless weapons. Let me show you one. I got one here for you guys, and this is the M16A2. This is a rifle that nobody I know of uses. I've never seen a build where somebody said, oh yeah, and for my rifle I'm using the M16A2. In fact, I snoop on people's builds when I'm running missions with them. Yes, if you see me in cover just randomly not shooting NPCs, it's because I'm looking at y'all's builds and I'm copying it. That's what I do. I like to copy people's builds. Shame on me, whatever. Okay, and so this is a weapon that a lot of people do not use, and why it's in the game at all, I have no idea. In fact, there are other weapons that are here that are not the police MK17, which is one of the strongest rifles in the game, that can be looked at very closely, can be kind of assessed. Now the weapon, the rifle that's actually doing very well is it's a marksman rifle. It's actually the SVD. The SVD it's a marksman rifle, has a lot of headshot damage, and is semi-automatic. So that's actually the weapon that took the place when the police MK17 was actually so-called balanced, in quotes. It was nerfed. Its rate of fire was reduced, and first its damage was reduced, and then its rate of fire was reduced, and then everybody just looked at it as irrelevant. A lot of people don't want to run rifle builds using it anymore. And then you have things like the SIG, where the SIG is okay. The SIG can do just as well. But you start to look at its RPM can make up for it if you have a good one. But then you start to look at things like its stability. Stability doesn't even match up to the MK17 if you're looking at this chart. And then you come look at a weapon like this, has no stability, has a lot of accuracy, has trash damage, has low RPM, less RPM than the SIG. And what do you want people to do with a weapon like this? Well, bring it up to par and just take an outlier like this. This is an outlier, and bring it up to par with the best rifles and see what happens with human behavior. Human behavior, especially when you look at it in the terms of the Division 2, is that a lot of people want to go for the very best items. Nobody came here to farm to get trash. Funny enough, right? Isn't it surprising that we come out here to actually play the game and get the what? The best possible items. So if a weapon, if a particular brand set, if a particular build is the best, a lot of people are going to go for it. You don't see people coming and say, I'm going to spend my 100, 200, 300 hours in a division only for me to, farm trash and use it. Nobody wants to do that. I mean, that's the goal of the game. So I think that the role of balancing in the game should be to look at weapons that are close to the most powerful weapons or the outliers, and bring them to compete with those outliers, or just increase their effectiveness and make the so-called outlier almost irrelevant, but also kind of in a sense a subservient alternative. And then people can start looking for those for the newly buffed up weapon, and then that gives us something to farm for. And then you're making improvements in the game, and then you're fulfilling the need in terms of human behavior and expectations of power progression among the players. So this is just my primitive way of doing this. I wanted to sit here and do the math, but then you have to account for so many things in terms of that. But I think this is a simple solution. This is one place to start. Now, the hard part of it is to take this weapon or the P416, compare it to all the other weapons, compare it, with all the other talent possibilities within the game. It's a big game. And then, making sure that it's actually balanced in a very fair way according to the other weapons and all that good stuff. Now, that's a very, very difficult task to do, but somebody commented on something in my other video and said, oh, please take note that they also just overhauled all the skills in the game, which would have taken them a whole lot of time to do, and compared, the amount of skill damage that you're doing to the amount of weapon damage. So they actually have compared a bunch of weapon damage possibilities compared to all the different skill possibilities as well. Maybe not all the skill damage possibilities, because some skills don't do damage, like the fireflies that blind you. But if they were willing to do all that hard work, then what's the problem, in my opinion, in doing the hard work that it entails to making sure that one weapon is not an outlier, but other weapons are competitors and other weapons can actually compete. I'm not saying every other assault rifle should compete. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying every other weapon should compete. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying options, if they were actually much more, then you have people gravitating towards those other options and not feeling like one weapon is doing way more damage or is more effective than other weapons. And then finally, before I end this video, you have to look at RNG. RNG in this game is terrible. Look at this P416 that I'm showing off here with Ranger, Allegro, stop, drop, and roll. To me, it doesn't matter. If they nerf it it's a division. I've seen them nerf a whole lot of things. I'll just put it back in my stash until one day they kind of buff it again. But if you look at this weapon, it's a 496 gear score weapon. And I have another one that's 491 gear score. Now, I'm not saying gear score, should matter. I think it should, but the developer seemed to have left the RNG to just roll whatever it wants to roll. But this weapon has got 19,000 damage, while this one has got 24,000 based on my build, and there's only 5 gear score permutations for the difference. And then if you look at my other P416s, I don't have any more on this build. They're my other character. And if you look at the other P416s I have, they're doing the 20s in terms of damage, whereas this one is just a very low roll. So even if they go ahead and nerf the P416, you still have to overcome RNG issues. And that's where it all gets complicated. That's where it gets really, upsetting when you farmed and you finally got your hands on one that you want, and then they nerf it. And then for you to find something that would replace that, you have to deal with and overcome a blatantly disruptive RNG. So this is where the underlying problem is. And so I'm going to rest my case on this matter. If I have any more ideas, I will be happy to share them in the comment section, or I'll be happy to share them in a different video. So thank you guys for listening and watching. If you made it to the end of my rant, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for even paying attention to this channel. We're approaching 16,000 subs, and I'm just so grateful for you guys. I guess I'll see you in the next video. I'm going to get out of your hair. Peace.